Oh, hello there. Welcome to our ceiling wood video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our ceiling. Just saw us pan in from the ceiling, which means you already saw that we have a shiplap-ish ceiling now in the bus. So originally we really wanted to actually save the metal panels on the ceilings. It has really solid gauge metal panels. Since we really don't like wasting stuff and we thought this metal should be preserved, we wanted to kind of reuse it. However, after taking it down, and you've seen this in our previous videos, after taking down the ceiling, putting in the 1x3s as a thermal barrier onto the ribs, naturally our ceiling came down 3/4 of an inch, right? Which means all of our ceiling panels would have not fit perfectly anymore. We would have had to cut them, and it would just kind of been a bit of a trial and error, and we really didn't want to get into that. We are going to keep them for future projects. Ultimately, we decided to use 1/4 inch plywood and make our fake shiplap ceiling. With that decision having been made, we are lucky that we have a friend who actually works for a theater company through whom we can order plywood at wholesale prices. But we ended up paying, I think, $14 per 4x8 sheet of 1/4 inch. And again, we have about, I think it's about 9 feet across and 35 feet length or so, the ceiling area which we needed to cover. So we calculated it out and it ended up being, I think, 29 sheets of plywood, which is the ceiling as well as our wall panels. And for the wall panels, we have something special coming, so you definitely want to check that video out once it's coming out. Before we started putting up the ceiling, so as you know from our previous video, we got spray foam insulation, precisely closed cell spray foam, which actually acts as a vapor barrier if done right. However, we are always on the opinion to, better safe than sorry, so we got another vapor barrier, which is, I think, a 6 mil, I believe, just plastic. That's one roll, so it's one continuous piece. And we're gonna glue that in with some Tyvek tape everywhere where it connects to the actual frame, so that we are 100% sure that no vapor from our breath or from the animals or from coming in with wet feet or dirty clothes or something can actually get onto the metal. Because at the metal it will condensate, right? So earlier I mentioned the thermal break. That is also why we have the thermal break on top of the metal ribs across. What we decided to do is we cut every sheet down in 1.5 inch strips, and then on top of that we have 3 inch strips on the sides and 5 inch strips in the middle. So we did a bit of back of the napkin math and figured out how much we needed to cut it to, and we didn't want them all to align in one seam. You see a lot of people doing them all just butt up next to each other and then have kind of a trim piece run in 2 or 3 spots across the ceiling. We didn't want that look, so we decided to stagger them. So we started with 3 different lengths of panels to end up at the perfect length we needed. We went to the shop, he ripped it all down for us. I made a cut list on what we need so to make it really efficient. Ripped it all down on the table saw, went back over to the miter saw, cut it all to length, and then we were, well on the way. It took us quite a while to nail them all in, so we were able to just finish nail everything in with I think 1 inch finish nails right on top of the thermal bridge I mentioned earlier, right? The 1x3s. So that all worked out really well. Before that, you see all of the cables hanging out right off our vapor barrier. So that is really the only electrical we needed to plan before we put the ceiling in. You also heard me talk about, or Emmy talk about before, these big old wire looms running throughout the bus. This one is running from the front to the back. There's one running here from the front to the back. There's one going across in the back, one in the middle, and one in the front. So we have plenty of room and plenty of opportunity to run all of our wires. We ended up leaving that run of the shiplap empty while we were installing it. We were waiting for our lights because we didn't want to drill holes before we had the lights. They were from Amazon. We're gonna link them below. We like them a lot. But this was on our test pieces. It works out really well. Just a regular hole saw, which I think we also ordered from Amazon. I'm gonna link that as well. And fits perfectly. And these are really nice. We're gonna install them probably next week sometime. I'm gonna get a video of that, of course, as well. And then there shall be light. We got really far, but then, you know, the runs for the lights we haven't finished yet, and it just got late. So we finished the day being about maybe 75% done or so. And the rest we still needed to cut some and install the runs for the lights as well as the rest. So since the bus was back at our house, I did again a cut list, and somehow, I don't know what happened that day, I had a brain fart and somehow I measured the wrong length for a couple of the pieces. So you will see us in the last section. Emmy and I are actually installing the rest of it, and it ends up not really working out. So if you're sitting in our bus and you know what you're looking at, it should all be, you see this up here, it should all be like this, right? So you have one seam here, and then you have one seam here, and then here again, and here again. And then the next one is there, right? So you have 1, 2, 3. But since I measured wrong, and like I mentioned earlier, we are not fans of throwing things out, we just made it work. So now we do have a couple of them ending up just like this, where you actually have 2 of those seams right next to each other. The only tricky part in the bus was actually the front. The front over the driver cab actually comes down a couple inches. I don't know if you can really see this in the video, but it makes it difficult because if we would have just run our regular shiplap panels all the way up, then they would have just met in the front and have a bigger gap in the back. And we didn't want that. This was an experiment which actually came out pretty well. We still need to do, you know, the corners where it bends a little bit more. It's more pronounced on the other side where we steam bend this last trim piece, or these last trim pieces, just like we did for the thermal bridges on the gaps. So go back and watch our steam bending video. That's how we're going to do that, just so it adheres really well to the contour. And then we just cut down 2-inch wide strips. So it's a 2-inch backing, and you kind of see when I push onto here, this is two pieces on top of each other, right? This is the same thing everywhere in the bus, where we just overlay them to have this fake shiplap effect. So I just ended up putting in 2-inch pieces very close to each other. I actually ended up not even measuring that. You know, our friend would yell at us, but it ended up coming out pretty well, I think. We like it. We put in the front bulkhead. That's the factory bulkhead. We were kind of going back and forth on that. Should we frame that in with wood? What should we do? But it did work out because it just had the contour we needed. We're gonna sand this all down, paint it, put in another tiny little nook in here, because this is of course all spray foamed as well for trinkets. And that is, I think, most of what we did to the ceiling. If you have any questions on how we did anything, if anything isn't clear, you know, put it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for all of our future videos and hit that update bell button. A thumbs up would be appreciated too. Thanks for watching.